Welcome, everyone. Today we are talking to authors and writers. This is the Ohio Writers Guild, and this is our podcast for March. And today we're going to be interviewing Dr. Cenell Boch. And is it Boch or Boch? Boch?
Bach.
Boch. Okay, I wanted to make sure I pronounced that correctly. And I've talked with her before. She's quite amazing, and she has a new book out, and we're going to talk to her all about her book. But in the meantime, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. Kathy Benner, I'm a passive income mentor, and I do have an academy online. It's an international academy. It's under kathybenner.com. You can see my name in the little Hollywood square here. And if you click through, you will see that we have an entire course on writing for the Ohio Writers Guild for authors and writers. And one of the things that I want to mention today is that for all of you that are kind of new to writing or maybe new to this call, and you're thinking, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. And I don't know what the statistics are, but I saw not too long ago that something like 80% of the people say that they want to write a book, but they never do. And so that leaves those of us that are published in like the 20%. And look at the number of books that are out there. And so if 20% of the people are writing all those books, wow. So I encourage you to just simply start and see where it takes you and figure it out if you have that spark in you that you want to write. But one of the things that I want to talk about before we do our interview today is all of the different publishing routes. You know, you can be traditionally published, you can be self-published, which is the total opposite spectrum, or you can choose one of the hybrid or vanity publishers in between, and there's 1,000,001 options. And so what I want to tell you to do is do your due diligence, make sure that you don't get scammed, because no matter what it is that we want to spend our money on, there is somebody out there these days that want to turn that into a scam. So be careful that you don't send money off unless you do your due diligence and make sure that it is an actual publishing house of some sort there. And again, we can get down into the weeds on all of the different variations, but I'm going to share my screen briefly and just show you how that might look. So bear with me just a moment. This is the Academy. And when you go to the Academy page, which just is under Kathy Benner, you can scroll over to the More button and come down to the Authors and Writers. And when you click on the Authors and Writers section, which is where we are today, you can click here and look at all of our past replays of all of the interviews that we've done, and scroll down, and here is the actual course. I'm going to click on that. And this is where you can find all of the information. And these are the topics that are covered in the course. It's choosing a publishing route, which is what I've just mentioned today. But we talk about editing your draft, getting feedback, titling your manuscript, formatting your book, designing a book cover, writing a publisher-ready book description, and then creating a book launch plan. I'm getting ready to launch my third book. And Cenell, how many books do you have? Do you just have the one or more than one? Two. Okay.
Two.
I'm getting ready to launch my third one at the end of April. And so you have to create a book launch plan. Ours is going to be around a 2-day conference with book signing at Barnes & Noble, with podcasting. I mean, we've got a whole event planned around this book launch. And then how to get your book to the online retailers, and then how to market to increase your sales. So you can click through. This is the registration link to be on the podcast, which is where we are today. And if you click through and register here, then Zoom will send you the actual meeting ID so that you can just click through and get on. So anyway, as we come down, I just want to show you where this is. And here is choosing a publishing route. And when we click on that, choosing the publishing route, it goes through the 3 main routes to publishing. It talks about how to do the traditional publishing, the self-publishing, and then the third way is the vanity presses or the hybrid publishing. I'm not going to read it to you. You can click through there and go through all the information. It spells it out in detail. It talks all about traditional publishing, so you can learn about that on your own. There's tons of information on the internet. There's information out on YouTube videos, tutorials on all of that. And then, of course, this course. So I just wanted to show you where it was so that you could get to it. if you are interested in diving a little deeper into that topic. But I don't want to take a lot of time today because I do want to give Sandy some time to talk about her writer's workshop. It is one of our tribe trips, and I encourage all of you on this call to sign up and see us at the writer's workshop. But I just want you to know that there's tons of information out there and that we are here to support you at wherever you want to go with your writing. So I'm going to send it over to Sandy, and I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about her writer's workshop. Sandy.
Hi, thanks a lot, Kathy, always for letting me be here and being your part of your group. I love it. Hi, I direct a writer's workshop, have for this will be my 7th year. It's in the town of Yellow Springs, Ohio at the Mills Park Hotel. And it's a weekend long, and I always invite no more than 3 featured guests. So they run the weekend more or less, leading sessions, and they make themselves available to you. So if your question comes on a Friday evening when they're talking about how to pitch a book, or it comes to you on Sunday morning, they're there. They're there on Saturday, and they have to be flexible enough to know enough about writing that they can lead more than one session. This year's featured guests include 2. One is Vicky Salvaggio. She is the owner of Storm Literary Agency, and she's an agent. It's my first time having a traditional publisher in the room. So it'll give that aspect, and I am sure traditional publishing has changed a lot over the years. And so you should be able to give you that insight as to what is going on. Maybe it can be a place in your writing career, and maybe this is it. No, absolutely not. But I know I've read a lot of stuff about traditional publishing. This is my chance personally just to hear it from someone who's in the business. That means she's an agent. She'll also be hearing book pitches. So if you have a book, it doesn't have to be all the way to the end, but you have to know how it ends. She'll be happy to hear your 10-minute pitch and talk about how to do that on that Friday night. I also have Juliet Hyland, multi-published. I think she's in her 25th book for Harlequin. It's Mills and Boon, but it's an offshoot of Harlequin. Romances. And you often think, could you do 2 careers? Can you be a writer and do like a regular paid job with, Kathy, benefits and all? Yes, you can. And Juliet does, of all things, analytical work for the Air Force and by day, and in the evening she raises children, she raises pets, she raises a husband, and she writes romance books. And she's currently in a 6-book contract. So woohoo, it can be done. She's going to lead things like, how do you write characters that really attract your readers? And she'll lead writing exercises, and there's open mic readings. You want to read 10 minutes of one of your stories, you can do that. Book sales on we're in the Mills Park where Ellie's restaurant is located, and its busiest times are Sunday morning, kind of that breakfast brunch time. And that's the morning in which we'll be selling. Anybody who has their own book to sell will be selling it. So the public, as well as fellow attendees, can hopefully make a couple bucks for you for that weekend. A lot about writing, enough that my personal thing is, if you don't go home with your head aching from all the information and all the connections, well, then I've got to work harder. But it's going to be great. I've been Zooming with Vicky, the agent, and Juliet, the writer, for a while, off and on. Things you want to know about pitching. How do you write a query letter? And that's the 250-word letter that will make or break your story for an agency. And all there is to do about writing. And I'm trying to think what else. It's just jam-packed. August 1, 2, and 3 in Yellow Springs. So email me, Sandy, at intothespringswritersworkshop.com, and the website's posted in the chat. Thanks.
Oh, Sandy, that's a lot of information. But you know what? I've learned more by attending a couple of writers' workshops than I can just researching on my own. Because when I research on my own, I don't know what I don't know. And I keep asking questions like, should I do it this way or that way? And then when I get to actually see it in action, it all comes together. And so going to a writer's workshop was huge for me. This year, I have two scheduled. I have one in Cincinnati and the one with Sandy in Yellow Springs. And both of those I have on my website as Tribe Trips. If you go back to kathybinner.com and just go to the Tribe Trips, you'll see all of our different Tribe Trips. Sally is our in-house travel agent. She is a blogger. And her blog is called Embrace the Unexpected, which is perfect with her being in travel. And she can put together all of the details for you. If that's a piece of it that you don't like to do or don't want to do, Sally can put all of that together for you. And her travel agency is called Mermaid Travel. And so you can tap into that if you're interested in going on any of the tribe trips. I want to now talk to Cenell. I'm so excited to talk to her today. She is an author, Dr. Cenell Boch. She's an author and entrepreneur, a mindful meditation teacher, and professor in the field of health sciences. She serves as a full-time faculty member at North Park University, and she owns a private wellness practice, Wellness with Cenell. And additionally, Dr. Boch founded the nonprofit organization, C&C Wellness, Inc., through which she provides health and wellness resources to communities, aiming to improve both physical and mental well-being. With over 25 years of experience, she's assisted clients in developing healthier lifestyles. So, Cenell, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here today. So, in December, you published Resilience, Overcoming Obstacles with Mindfulness. So, this is your second book, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so your second book. And so, the first thing I want to do is I want to ask you a little bit about and we're kind of go backwards, kind of a background and bring us up to speed. When you first got started, did you think, oh, I'm going to write a book, and then the book turned into the business? Or were you already operating and functioning in the business, and then everybody probably kept saying, you need to write a book, Cenell? And then you went back and wrote, which came first, the business or the book?
Well, I want to say thank you so much, Kathy, for the opportunity to be a part of the podcast, and greetings to all of you who are attending and those of you who are writers as well. It's just wonderful to be with you all. And I'm looking forward, Sandy, to the kind of investigating. Those are some great opportunities that you share with us with the writers workshop in August. That sounds pretty awesome, actually. And so for me, the writing came second to the business. So like you said, I have two businesses, and my writing is a little bit different. My book is a little different and somewhat unique in that it's actually my own personal history of some things that I've experienced and that I wanted to share to help others who may be experiencing similar obstacles or just obstacles, generally speaking, and the resilience. How do we build that muscle of resilience? So, and it did, I guess all of what you said kind of happened. I had some individuals, I felt like I wanted to write a book, and I shared the fact that I wanted to write a book, and individuals that I spoke with said, yeah, you should write a book. So a little bit of all of that happened. However, I did have the businesses first. And so again, this style of writing is somewhat unique in that it's very personal. And then lastly, the unique thing about it is that it's also a workbook. So it's my own personal journaling that I drew the book content from. And then it's an opportunity for readers to engage through my experience, seeing how it relates to their experience and helping them to be able to overcome obstacles. So just building that muscle of resilience and overcoming those obstacles.
Cenell, I appreciate you being here so much. And I've looked into the book and read snippets of it. I haven't had a chance to read it in its entirety yet, but I have it. So how did you, with having two businesses, how did you find time to actually write? That's one of the biggest things that I get from a lot of my students is they're like, how do you find time? Are you one of the type of writers that you set aside? And I hear all kinds of variations, but some folks say, oh, first get up in the morning, and the first thing I do is I write for an hour before my day gets crazy. And some people say, no, I have to wait for the kids and the husband and everybody to go to bed, and then I can write when it's quiet. Did you have a system for your writing? How did that work for you?
Yeah, so I'm really grateful to my editor and the publishing company, and I put the link to one way of purchasing the book is through the publishing company Word E. It's like the word word, then it's three E's at the bottom or at the in the post the word. So she really did help me a lot with kind of once I'd already had the book written. So I would probably say no, I didn't have dedicated time per se each week. What I did was I'm a professor, so my summers were a little more, a little lighter in the summer. So I spent more time in the summer, and I did dedicate. Okay, I'm one of those writers that said, okay, the next 3 months I'm going to dedicate it, and I'm going to finish it, and I'm going to do it. Some people, they write over a span of years. Some people, like me, they say, you know what, I want to complete this within this amount of time, whether it's 6 months, 9 months, 3 months. So I had already worked on one version of the book, but even when I wrote my first book, I did it within like 3 months, so it was pretty fast.
Okay.
And this book, it's somewhat of a redo of the first book. There's some similar content, so I was able to kind of utilize that technique and that strategy in revising that content to some extent and doing the second book. And then again, creating more of a workbook. And I have to say, the publishing company really did help me a lot. And to be able to realize the vision that I had and even kind of tweaking some of the things that I thought I wanted to go this direction. And then they offered, well, what about this direction? And so we were able to kind of come to some agreement on, yeah, that does sound really good. And that is a direction that I want to go. So I had some help, and I'm really grateful for them.
And I hear that as well. Some of my students, especially, they're like, well, but an editor kind of makes you get away from what your original intent was in your writing, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes it isn't good. Did you find it hard to decide? And I'll say it this way: did you find it hard to decide when to put your anchor down and say, no, I don't want to change that? That's very important to my message. But then you were open to maybe modifying other things. Was that a hard thing for you to do?
No, actually,
Okay.
it was quite easy for me because I'm also my personality and my nature is I'm a kind, generous person.
Okay.
And I say that, not braggadocious, but that's just who I am. I'm that person that shows up and wants to extend a helping hand. I want to help. I want to be of service. I'm more of that servant leader.
Yeah.
And I'm also grounded in what I really want to get across as my message, to be able to be a blessing to those around me, to be a help to individuals who just really need that additional help. They need that additional support. They're already on the right track or the right path, but they just need some additional support. And I saw how my mentors did it for me. And there was a really hard point. I won't say hard, it was a tough point. It was a defining point, we'll put it that way, where that actually happened, where the editor was like, well, I think you should go this way. And I was like, no, I'm not going to go that way. And I think it even surprised her because she thought that I probably would not have pushed back. She probably felt like, oh, Cenell, she'll probably just do exactly whatever, I want her to do. Um, and I felt in my heart that I really wanted to get this message out in this way. So yeah,
Okay.
there were some things that were non-negotiables.
Okay. But you knew that going in because you were very clear on your message. And
Yes,
I think,
yes.
and I don't know if you can agree with me, but I think that that's probably where some of the authors or wannabe authors that I'm working with, they don't have that total clarity yet
Mm,
as
mhm.
they're writing. And so when an editor goes, oh, you should do this, they're like, oh, should I? And so I think you were very clear on what you wanted your message to be. Now,
Right.
what inspired you to write this resilience overcoming obstacles with mindfulness? What was there an aha moment or something that happened in your life that you said, I need to get this message out about resilience and about mindset? What inspired you to actually write this particular book?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks so much, Kathy, for asking about, what inspired the book. I'd probably say the first book inspired the second book.
Okay.
The first book is titled Living with Double D's, Overcoming Depression and Divorce. And so those two obstacles, I can maybe perceive them as obstacles, definitely when I was going through them. I can,
Oh, absolutely.
perceive
Yeah.
them as obstacles. However, now I can look back, and even today when I have those tough times, I understand different strategies that I've used that I just wanted to share. So that was the inspiration. It was understanding that we all have, this human experience. We experience challenges, obstacles, and how do we get from A to B? How do we get to that next step? And sometimes it's just that, it's just the next step. And so building that muscle of resilience, I talk about different strategies. And so the thing that's different between the first book and the second book is that I also learned more about this practice of mindfulness and becoming a mindfulness meditation teacher and building my own practice. And what did that look like? So I share other strategies in addition to mindfulness. However, that was one of the key strategies that really helped me, or technique, or I guess I would call mindfulness a practice. One of the practices that really helped me to build the muscle of resilience.
For our listeners, how do you actually define resilience, and why is the mindfulness such an effective tool in cultivating that?
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you. So if you look at the word resilience, if you break it apart, there's the prefix is the R-E, and then the zillions could mean also silence. And so kind of redoing and being silent. And so to me, that's exactly what mindfulness is. Resilience is an opportunity versus being a failure. It's an opportunity to do something again with a different mindset. So for me, mindfulness is a practice of being focused, being aware, being present. And so the zillions or silence is almost kind of just being silent, just kind of being aware of what's happening. So if we can show up in that mindset of, okay, this is an opportunity for me to redo from a place of awareness, from a place of presence, it can really change the way we look at things.
Wow, I'm absorbing all of that right now. I'm trying to, identify how my life would connect with what you're talking about.
Mm.
Can you elaborate on some of the practical tools and techniques that you discuss in the book?
Sure. So mindfulness is just one tool. So I'll spend some time on mindfulness. However, before I do that, there's some other tools. I'm a health scientist, so I talk about good sleep, exercise or physical activity, simply acts of self-compassion, like taking a drink of water when you really need it. That's a simple act of self-compassion. I know that I'm thirsty, but I'm so busy, I'll get to it later. Just taking that moment to pause and providing the body what we need. So good sleep, exercise, good nutrition are other things that I talk about. And I also, of course, talk about mindfulness. The practice of mindfulness involves three things: our intention, our attention, and our attitude.
Okay.
Our intention, our attention, where's our attention, and what is our attitude? So as we are faced with these various obstacles, the practice of mindfulness is a really powerful practice. It's the power of what is our intention, where is our attention, and what is our attitude. So yeah, so those are some ways that I've been able to utilize. Again, if we go back to the book and how I approach writing the book, what was my intention? My intention is to get a message out, to be a blessing to millions all over the world. That's my intention. Where is my attention? As I was writing the book, my attention was on, okay, let's get this chapter done, or let's get this section finished. And then my attitude, typically I try to approach it from a place of compassion, both for myself and for those that I interact with. And again, a positive attitude of wanting to be of service, wanting to be a blessing. So intention, attention, and attitude are all aspects of mindfulness practice.
Wow. I'm absorbing. I love all of this. you talk about daily writing prompts and like introspective questions. How does that contribute to building this resilience?
Yeah, again, beautiful. Well, it's interesting because the brain, if we think about the neuroscience, again, as a health scientist and PhD in investigating how mindfulness can help reduce stress, it can help improve self-compassion. There's some things that happen in our brain. Our brain, I know you probably heard this word before, neuroplasticity, where our
Mhm.
brain can actually change and grow. And so mindfulness kind of helps them that pattern of change in a positive way. It kind of helps us switch from the fight or flight brain. I'm kind of pointing to the back or the side of my brain to the front, to our prefrontal cortex, which is the logical thinking brain. And so doing things like a writing prompt can kind of help slow us down. It drops us into our parasympathetic system, which is part of the central nervous system. It helps us to feel more grounded, more settled. And it gives us time for that introspection. What am I really feeling? What's really happening here? And how might I change when I approach this in the future? And how might I change right now? So the writing prompts is just an opportunity. It's an opportunity for self-reflection or that introspection. And it's also an opportunity to kind of, again, give us some time to slow down.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Can you share an example of a short story from the book that illustrates connecting with one's true source? You talked about true source in the book.
Yes, yes. There's one part of the book, again, the book is interesting in that they're my own personal experiences. So I do sometimes get a little emotional when someone asks me to like, do a reading from the book because it is kind of like I'm reliving some parts of that.
Mhm.
But one part, or several parts actually, um, I talk about staying connected to source. I call it God. Some people call it universe, creator,
Mhm.
Allah. So being able to know that there's a there's a connection there that we can drop into, and it's really a remembrance. I think for many of us, if not most of us, we know, like there's a knowing inside of us. And if you don't know, then you might look into the eyes of a baby, and you can kind of connect. There's a sense of there's something bigger happening here, or you look at a flower or a bud and then you see the flower kind of pop open. Like there's something going on here. Like I had nothing to do with that. It just happened. Those are reminders for us of that source, that sense of connection to something bigger, greater that's going on, not only in us, but around us. And I even talk about from the microscopic to the macroscopic, to something as small as an ant, to something that's as grand as the galaxies. There's a connection. And so um, some of the things that have happened in my life, again, like the depression I talk about in the book, I worked on a PhD. This was the third PhD. The first one, I went through some depression. I didn't complete it successfully. That was really hard. The second one, I went through a divorce, and that was really, really, traumatic. No one gets married to get divorced, so it was a very traumatic experience. And through both of those, I did kind of come back. During those two experiences, I really came back to a sense of prayer. That was my strategy. That was my technique of overcoming those obstacles was prayer. And I love, just a little side note, how one of my mentors say that prayer is us talking to God and meditation is the listening. So when I think about mindfulness meditation as a tool or strategy or practice of helping us overcome obstacles, I feel like it's an opportunity for us to be able to sink in, to become silent, and to just listen. And you can hear, you can see the trees might talk to you. And I don't mean like physically talking, but just being that aware. A flower might speak to us. Something happening in nature helps us to feel that sense of groundedness and connection. Sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there. You asked me.
No, no, I love it because my next question was, what role does spirituality play in the journey toward resilience, according to your perspective? And I think you shared some of that.
Yeah.
So no, I love that because I think we all have our own ways of feeling grounded and connected, and so I really appreciate that. How can readers apply the concepts in your book to navigate just everyday challenges? Nothing maybe as big as a divorce or something that large, but just everyday challenges. How can the book help them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Also, you have great questions, Kathy. Well, and it depends on if you see, I don't know that we necessarily define our writing practice or our writing experience as an obstacle, but we might feel like, I really want to do this, and it's becoming challenging to get to the next chapter. And so, what I'd invite them to do is, if it's mindfulness, if it's just being present in the moment, taking a few deep breaths, or if it's the physical activity strategy, whatever strategy in the book speaks to them, I would invite them to do it and be consistent with it, because it's building a muscle of helping them to find that clarity and to overcome that obstacle. So of course, I enjoy the practice of mindfulness and sharing that. However, there's also some other strategies that'll help us build our resilience, our ability to redo, to continue to move forward, and to do that from a place of presence and clarity. So,
I appreciate that. For some of those that are listening maybe to this even later, whether you're on the call now or listening to the replay, and they haven't read the book and they're just now learning about you for the first time, can you describe some of those strategies
oh, sure.
so that they know what it is that when we talk about strategies, they know what we're talking about?
Sure, sure. So again, I'm Dr. Cenell Boch. I'm a health scientist, and a professor and writer and speaker, and I'm also a coach. And so when I talk about strategies, particularly when we're feeling kind of, again, in that heightened state, it could be, so what happens neurologically, from a neuroscience perspective, we have different parts of our body called the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. The sympathetic system is our fight or flight. If we feel threatened, then we're wired as part of our humanness, as part of our biology, to either fight, flight, or we may just shut down. So we're either going to fight, we're going to run away, or we're going to shut down. And this is really crucial. This was a survival mechanism, and still is a survival mechanism for us in our primitive days, to be able to fight off a bear or a lion. However, today it's not so much a bear or a lion, it's more of, I'm supposed to be writing, I have a deadline, or I have this thing going on at work, or I have this family issue that I'm dealing with, or I have this emotional trauma that I'm dealing with on a personal level. So all of those mechanisms can still activate that sympathetic nervous system. Well, when I talk about strategies, I'm talking about things that we can engage to activate the opposite part of that system. It's called the parasympathetic. And that's kind of our rest and digest system. It's the system that helps us to feel calm. It's the system that helps us to feel grounded. And it kind of helps us shift from that reactive brain to the more logical thinking brain, a productive brain. So these things are mechanisms or strategies that we can utilize to help that shift to occur. And mindfulness is one of those ways. I talked about exercise, or, supportive communication, being able to reach out to a trusted loved one, just talking through it. The writing prompts. Some of us, we communicate better written. And so being able to write it out, that's another strategy. So I talk about other strategies in the book. However, these are all mechanisms to help us kind of tame that biology, if you will, and kind of even retrain the brain. So all of these things are happening. So it's wonderful for me to be able to share those things. I don't know if that made sense, however. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. What feedback have you received from readers who have applied your mindful techniques?
Yeah, so I think, again, that sense of calm and groundedness, and help them to be able to just kind of shift so that they can think a little bit clearer. That's probably been one of the best, I don't want to say best, but one of the beneficial things that I've heard. I did a reading in Chicago a few weeks ago, and I was really struck. I did it on campus at the university, and I was really struck by how it impacted, younger individuals. There was an individual who became very emotional. She was sharing her experience and was really um, impacted by reading the book, with regards to her own personal journey. She felt like life needed to go from A to B to C to D. And she said after reading the book, and tears were literally streaming down her face. She said after reading the book, she realized that life may not go from A to B to C to D. It may go from A to H back to B. Her journey may take several different paths, and that's okay, and that she'll still be okay. She said me being vulnerable for her helped her to realize that even if she goes on a detour, that she'll still be okay. So that was really powerful for me to hear from, a 19, 20, 21-year-old who was moving from her degree to the
Absolutely.
next phase of her life, that it had a powerful impact. So
That is very powerful, Cenell. Thank you so much for sharing that. Are there any additional resources or practices that you recommend to those looking to deepen their resilience?
there's, like you said, about the different opportunities for writing. There's a million and one. I feel like there's a million and one ways that we can deepen our resilience. And I'm really blessed to put out resilience, overcoming obstacles with mindfulness as one way to do that. Resilience is a muscle, much like exercise. I would just offer that individuals find one that resonates with them and continue to practice it. So it's not so much what I recommend, it's really what resonates with you to help continue to build your muscle of resilience. And I talk about several strategies. Again, whatever strategy resonates with you to help build that resilience to overcome obstacles, mindfulness may be one. There may be other strategies, exercise, good sleep, either verbal or written communication, good nutrition,
Mm-hmm.
again, so all of those things can help. So I guess the better question, and when I coach individuals too, is I think we kind of know, and sometimes it's just needing that extra support to continue those things that we know are beneficial. And every once in a while, something like a mindfulness practice, we might come across something new that we
Mm-hmm.
don't know and that we want to explore and investigate. So that would probably be my offering. Those things that you know have been beneficial and they resonate, continue to practice those. And something like mindfulness that's new, maybe explore it.
Good points. Yes, I love all of that. Let's circle back to you being the author. Once you had your manuscript and you found your editor, how did you decide in that publishing spectrum of traditional versus self-publishing versus one of the hybrid or vanity presses? How did you decide where you were going to get published?
I had some help, to be honest. I had some help. I had a family member who knew the editor of the company that I published with. And she said, I think this would be a really great fit. And it was funny because
Okay.
that family member is still working on writing her book.
And
So
you're
she's still,
already published. Okay.
yeah, so she's
Okay.
still
Well,
working on it. So
okay. You can be her inspiration.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. Actually, I talked to her about that, maybe co-authoring, because it's just one of those things where she talks to me about it, she'll put it back on the shelf, and she'll forget about it until like 2 months later. I'm like, what's going on with your book? And then life happens, right? She has responsibilities and other things that come up. So I understand why she is where she is. However, again, the intention, the attention, and the attitude. So,
Mhm.
where is your attention? What is your intention? And what is your attitude? That's why I love the practice of mindfulness. It kind of brings us back, full circle into what are we actually trying to accomplish? And where is our attention? So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. And so, am I to assume, just from your conversation, that this is one of the hybrid publishers? It's not one of the big traditional publishers. It's a hybrid where you had to pay at
Yes.
some level, and then they came with a menu on this is what you get for what you're paying for. And
Yeah. Yeah.
okay, and that
I think
and
it's
that's how that.
classified. I think it's still classified as self-publishing though. Yeah, I think if you look at their website, on the Wordy website, I think it's still classified as self-publishing. However, they do provide
It's a hybrid. Yeah.
the editing, and there's no marketing. The marketing is all on the author and I still have the rights to the book. So I guess I don't understand exactly what you mean by hybrid. Maybe there's different, like you said.
No, again, that's exactly what you're describing, is that you're self-published, but you had help from this publishing company
Yeah.
with the editing piece and actually getting the whole project put together with the cover and the ISBN number and getting it uploaded into Barnes and Noble. And it's all those things, because again, there's such a variety of skill sets that come into publishing. I mean, are you good at graphic design? Are you good at, at the technical piece, or are you good at the writing piece? Are you good at the editing piece? I mean, there's so many parts and pieces to getting a book out there that, I don't feel that we all can be, specialist in every one of those fields. And so there's nothing wrong with paying for some help to get across the finish line on some of those, because again, I don't know about you, but when I read a really good book, I never sit down, and I do now because I'm published, but in the past, I've never sat down and thought, I wonder who they paid to help them get this book across the, I've never even paid attention to that as a reader. And so most of your readers as well are not going to pay any attention to that. But as an author and a writer, then you do need to make some of those decisions on what is it that you want to really, really, really be good at. What do you have time to be good at? And what is it that you want to pay someone else that's already good at to do for you? And so, again, back to my original conversation when we started the call, there's just so many parts and pieces that there are some scammers that have gotten into that field of publishing, and you may not get what you pay for. So I think that's where you have to have some good referrals. And Cenell, like you said, it was referred to you from a family member that already knew about this publisher. And so it was a good experience for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely great experience. And the first book that I published, it was an okay experience. It was with a publishing company called Book Baby. And, a friend had told me about it, and I did a little research. And however, this second publication, I think, to me, it was, I'm just so grateful for the editors and the whole team. They just did they did a really great job. And I also did some research there. I know it's the same company that published Cheryl Lee Rolfe, and just some people that I respect and, know from a distance, not that I know her up close, but so yeah, this company I was excited to work with, and they've done an exceptional job. So yeah.
But what I hear you saying is that you did your due diligence before you made the decision to go with them. So good to know. So again, that's kind of the lesson for our listeners, is just make sure you do your due diligence and get some referrals and talk to some folks that have used the companies before you send off your check. So good to know. Dr. Cenell Boch, thank you so much. Please put in, and I think you may have put already in the chat where folks can get the book. I see that. You've got the website to Word E, but the book can be found on Barnes and Noble. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Amazon, anywhere you can buy books, you can find it.
Okay. And where can folks connect with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing and your coaching? Do you have a website that you could put over in the chat for everyone so that folks can connect with you? We would love.
Wellnesswithcenell.com is my website. Wellness with Cenell.
Okay, wellnesswithcenell.com. And she put that over there in the chat. You can see that for everyone. And I want to open it up now for any questions. Does anybody have any questions for Cenell? Comments, aha moments?
I do, if no one else does.
Yes. Sandy, go ahead.
One, I love the term self-compassion. I always often think of people say, oh, Sandy, you're such a compassionate person. But it's like I'm giving it to someone else. There's a lot of energy that you use up when you are compassionate for other people. And that's sometimes when everybody's in bed and this is your writing time. It's mostly like you find time to go to sleep, or you find time to watch some crazy show on TV, because the self-compassion has gone to bed. You are tired, or no one gave you permission to be compassionate with yourself and saying, okay, watch a few minutes of TV, but then you go and write your book. You're going to feel so much better about yourself when you do. So I'm going to play around with that term self-compassion a lot lately. And the other one, dealing with writing. I'm meeting two new writers this evening in a little writers group, and this one gal has been writing a bit, but doesn't think she's very good at all. And I like the idea of what resonates with you. And sometimes we have to have, it's nice if you have outside individuals who recognize it before or have to point it out to you. And she could tell a really great story. It usually deals with food because she's a chef, and but that's what resonates with her. And I am going to take that term and say, come on, use that. Trust yourself. If it's resonating with you, and like you had to find through your book, how do I express what's inside here so other people can identify and say, oh my gosh, I could use that, or I could adapt that. And I'm going to use the word resonate. It's similar to a writing style. And don't let the idea like, oh, who's going to like this? If you feel like it resonates with yourself, chances are it's going to
Mhm.
find the audience that resonates as well. So thank you. You have made my afternoon because I will sound so smart by taking some of your ideas. So thank you very much, Cenell.
Oh, Sandy, thank
Absolutely.
you. Thank you for
My
that.
pleasure. My
That
pleasure.
I tell my students all the time, be authentic and your tribe will find you.
Yeah, they will.
And so again, that just is right in line. What resonates with you will resonate with your readers because that's your tribe and they will find you. So yes, great stuff. Thank you, Sandy. Anyone else have any comments, aha moments, questions for Dr. Cenell Boch?
I love that intention, attention. I love that. You know, I think that's very powerful. Resonating, I think is so powerful. So, no, thank you for this, Kathy, and thank you for this Dr. Bob. This was amazing. So
Yeah.
fantastic. I'm gonna
Now,
utilize these principles. I was like texting my mom, certain things that you were saying, like prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. There was some gems in
Yeah.
that treasure chest that you were sharing. So I really appreciate it. So
Yeah.
thank you. My heart's yours.
Thank you so much.
Quincy, thank you so much for sharing. We appreciate you being here today. And Cenell, just so you know, he has 5 books. Yeah, so he's accomplished the writing and publishing. So he has 5 books out there. So good to know. I didn't know that about him until today. So that's good.
Congratulations, Quincy. That's amazing.
Anyone else? Linda.
Definitely a
Yeah,
blessing.
there were so many gems throughout this. I was taking notes like crazy. The one thing that really just jumped out to my heart was the self-compassion. I've often joked I am the worst boss ever. If a boss did to their employee what I do to myself, they would be written up on charges. And even just down to letting myself get a drink or stretch my legs, it's just it's obscene what I do to myself in the name of work and getting things done on the mission that I'm on. And I loved the one where you said the rest and digest system. That just
Mhm.
summed up what that part of our body is involved in. Um, and just so many things that I wrote down that you were saying, and this sense of groundedness that we should all seek to just be our baseline. And I've been working on that with I've been doing the morning miracle, um, and applying that in a really intentional way. And I feel like that has been helping. And of course, affirmation, meditation, all of that is part of it. So thank you so much for being here today. And I look forward to checking out your book.
Thank you. Thanks so much. It's my pleasure. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Linda. Anyone else?
I thought it was a
Elise?
great session. Yeah. Hi. Thank you so much, Dr. Bach. I thought it was a great session to really understand like the meditation hearing. And a lot of times we're doing a lot of talking instead of doing a lot of listening. And that's where we really start to grow. That was top notch. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Blessing to be
Now,
here. Yeah.
thank you for being here. This has been a great session. We really appreciate you. And for those of you that are listening in, Dr. Cenell Boch is going to be on another podcast in June for our Fit as a Fiddle Plus. And she's going to be talking all about, I believe your topic is the neuroscience of mindfulness in June. So mark your calendars. You can find all of our events at kathybinner.com. Scroll down to the calendar link. And once you get to the calendar, you can click through on any event and all the details will pop up. So you can see what's coming up on any given Monday for our podcast. And then you can also see what's coming up on the tribe trips. So definitely check out the calendar. It's at kathybinner.com. And I want to say thanks to everybody for listening and being with us today. And I'll be posting the replay soon. We also have a speakers cabinet. If you have a podcast or if you have an event where you need a speaker, you can go to our speakers cabinet and you can see all the folks there. And if you click through on their name and their link, it will take you right to their website on how to connect with them. We don't make any money on that at all. There's no fund, there's no fee. This is just to help elevate all of our guests. And Dr. Cenell Boch is, as our free gift to you, you are listed in our speakers cabinet. So other folks can find you as well. So if you need a speaker, go there first and you can connect with Cenell there if you need her to be a guest. So with that, we are going to say goodbye for today. This has been a great call. I appreciate everyone and we'll see everybody next time. Bye, everyone.